The 1v1 interview series is a production of the Boss Rush network of podcasts. Visit bossrush.net to listen to our podcast and read our articles, game reviews, and more. You can also follow us on Twitter at Boss Rush Network to stay up to date with our content. Thank you for listening. Hello everyone, and welcome to 1v1 with Boss Rush Network. I'm your host, Celeste Roberts. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing the folks behind Franchise Festival, a podcast and article series covering the evolution of noteworthy video game series. With me today are Christian.
Hello.
Hamilton.
Hello.
And Spencer.
Howdy.
Well, thank you all so much for making time for this interview. I've listened to a few of your episodes. The Resident Evil one, when I saw you were going to be talking about Resident Evil, I got really excited for that.
Yeah, we're really excited to cover it, truth be told. It's been a big passion of ours for a long time.
Well, what would you like to share with people about yourselves, like how you met, your other hobbies, your interests? Who would like to go first?
Christian, why don't you lead us off?
All right, will do. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of the like the central like the meeting point or something. Hamilton and I actually met each other in college. We went to college together, and then we've just been hanging out ever since. That was a good 12 years ago, 13 years ago, something like. It's longer ago than it seems.
We're all getting old.
That'll happen, eh? And then Spencer and I met through our wives, actually. Our wives were coworkers, and they, both knowing each of us, had gotten to talking, and they were like, wow, these two people seem like they're identical. And so, sure enough, we met and instantly hit it off. So that must have been back in the mid-2010s. Yeah, that sounds right, Spencer? That would have been like the mid-2010s, right?
Yeah, that was back when I was still living in Annapolis, so like 7 years ago or so. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. So, yeah, we all kind of, we came together. Spencer and I had originally discussed starting a podcast because, well, both of us were into a lot of the same podcasts. And, you know, if you're a 30-something in the United States, like, you start a podcast, you know, it's what you do. It's like, you know, it's a rite of passage. And so we were sitting at a ramen joint and got to thinking about starting a podcast. And I was like, you know who would be really good for this? Hamilton. So I immediately got in touch with Hamilton, and the three of us kind of kicked it off. We batted around some ideas, and we settled on Legend of Zelda to start.
That's awesome. So how long have you all been playing video games?
It's been a minute.
I mean, it's been a hot second, since as long as I can remember, honestly. Oh my goodness. Since the Atari came out. Like, I did not have my own Atari, but the original Nintendo system, for whoever remembers that, nice ancient technology. I had the original Mario Brothers and Tecmo Bowl and all sorts of other stuff that'll date me really nicely. And I just had a passion for video games. That was kind of my thing, especially since I was, you know, being social is a little difficult. So having that kind of outlet to express myself was very nice. And, you know, I don't know if Chris and Spencer can also kind of relate to the whole, like, you couldn't really tell people that you play video games back in the day, because that was also, like, that was not kind of considered the norm. People were just like, really?
It was a different time.
Video games? It was a different time.
Everybody was doing it, but nobody could talk about it, you know?
Exactly.
That's so sad. It really is. And I've been playing games, I think we're all around the same age. I'm in my early 30s, and I grew up playing video games, and I enthusiastically talked about them. But I wonder, you're making me wonder, is it different for guys versus gals?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe? I'm not sure. But Spencer, like, how's your experience with video games? How long have you played them?
I think I started playing games around the time I was 6. Because I remember my parents hate video games, but my brother is a lot older than me, and he had moved out of the house and got a Sega Genesis. And he moved out of state, and when he moved, he gave me his Genesis. And there's 3 games. There's Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Virtua Fighter. It had the 32X attachment. And
Wow.
Wow.
what was the third one? It was Sonic 2, Virtua Fighter, and Echo the Dolphin. That's what it was.
Oh, Echo the Dolphin.
Wow. I feel
Yeah.
like you just wanted to get on here to brag.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's happening right now.
I really wanted that 32X, is that what it's
Yeah.
called? I really wanted that back in the day. I'm glad I didn't get it now.
Yeah, you dodged a bullet, Hamilton. I had one of them too, and that's the single worst piece of hardware I've ever owned.
So I was told, but back in the day, that was the bragging rights.
It was,
Just
yeah.
But you had that, you could play Sonic Chaotix. Oh my god. Or
Knuckles.
Knuckles Chaotix?
Yeah,
Knuckles Chaotix.
Wow. So,
the worst 2D Sonic game ever made.
Yes.
wow.
Arguably.
Well, yeah, I feel like there's a list of those. There's not just this one. There are a few
No,
that-
no. What a flashpoint.
Don't talk about Sonic. Sonic's my favorite.
I know. Yeah, Hamilton and I we talk a lot of Sonic, the two of us.
I love Sonic the Hedgehog.
Are you happy with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie that came out last year?
No. Well,
I liked it.
I told Chris and I told Spencer, it's literally the perfect, most average watchable movie I've ever seen. I can't say it's good and I can't say it's bad. It's just that perfect mid-level. It exists and I can listen to it. And
Just
I
a
can
rock
watch
solid B-. Yeah.
It. Yeah, if you have eyes, you can see it.
Yep. Sometimes you need that.
If you have eyes, you can see it. That is probably the nicest way of describing of some form of media I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yeah. Kind of danced around that one, like, how can I express this movie? That seems to be it.
Well, what do you all like to do outside of video games? Do you play music? Do you play sports? Or do you tinker with anything? Christian, you have a piano behind you.
I do. I that's more of a prop for the purpose of this than anything. Usually I'm sitting with like nothing behind me, but I thought I'd spin the computer around so it was a little bit more of an exciting background. That's my wife's actually. She's a musician. She plays piano and marimba and everything.
She's super good at it.
Yeah, I used to play in a band actually. I played guitar in a band for years, but dropped that a long time ago.
I keep trying to talk you back into it, man. You got to play guitar and sing with me.
Yeah, we could rock it out, Hamilton.
I'm just saying.
But no, like other hobbies, just oodles of them, I guess. I'm love to read. I'm always reading, particularly like for some reason like detective stories and spooky stories have really kind of pulled me in during the pandemic. My background is in history. Like my educational background, my first real passion is history. Games I would rate as like a second to that. And so, just reading tons of like history books, talking to friends about that sort of thing. Travel, I love going to like museums. I think Spencer and I share a particular love of dining as well. We're trying to seek out cool places. Wouldn't you say so, Spencer?
Yeah, we go to a lot of neat places to eat, and that's because I love cooking as well. I spend a ridiculous amount of money on knives and water stones to keep them sharp, and I love cooking with my wife and watch a lot of YouTube videos on it. And finding cool places to go out to eat goes hand in hand with that because I like that food, and sometimes I'm too lazy to make it myself, so...
I know the feeling. What about you, Hamilton?
My hobbies. So I play guitar and I sing. And I've done that for many years now. Haven't quite started a band with that yet. But now that COVID is kind of, if you ignore the D variant or whatever the variant is coming up. Trying to actually be able to sing with other people. I love dining as well, but I mostly like the eating part. I can't say I particularly like the cooking.
That's the result.
Eating is wonderful. not so great for anything else in my body, but hey. And I don't know. I enjoy walking. I enjoy just kind of, I'm not trying to sound like an age-old dating profile, but I do like walks on the beach. I do like just kind of enjoying the fresh air, going in nature, and kind of go hiking. That always kind of clears the mind.
Yeah, it is nice, isn't it? Like, when you're stuck inside, you're like, oh, man, I wish I could go take a walk. And, like, the summertime's kind of a drag for that. But, like, good gracious, you get to the spring or fall and, like...
Oh, my gosh. Fall's my favorite season, so I can't wait until I just kind of see the... New England falls are also really nice.
Yeah.
So just being able to walk out here and enjoy it, can't beat it.
I'm so jealous. I think I was born an 80-year-old because my dream vacation is to just tour all of New England in the fall.
It's absolutely beautiful. It's so beautiful here.
I've still never seen it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we don't have a true fall down here. We have summer and wet winter.
And a wet winter.
Wet winter. But Hamilton, you have spurned a new question that I think would be fun to ask all three of you. What video game would you enjoy taking a walk in? If you had to pick just one.
Man.
Just one. And I'm sure there are so many you could pick, truly.
Don't say Silent Hill, Chris.
A nice stroll through Silent Hill. I mean, why not?
You know,
sometimes the sky's full of ash. Sometimes the buildings are made of rust. Like, you never know what you're going to get in Silent Hill.
Enjoying, strolling through my past horrible experiences and just learning just what a terrible person I actually am.
Spoiler for Silent Hill.
Did I kill my wife? You'll find out.
You'll find out. What about you, Spencer? I'll put you on the spot first. Is there a game you would enjoy taking a nice walk through?
That's kind of a tough one, because my mind went to the video game worlds that I thought were the most interesting, like Morrowind, but that doesn't seem like it would be a good place at all to walk through.
Get squished by a silt strider.
Yeah. Maybe The Witness.
Oh, that's a beautiful game.
Yeah.
I don't think I've played that. Can you explain a little bit, like, what that would be like to walk through?
Well, it's mostly an aesthetic choice. It's really like bright, vibrant colors. Gee, I don't know. How would you describe The Witness as aesthetic? That's a tough one.
Highly geometric.
Yeah.
Very abstract landscapes.
Yep,
Yeah,
and there's
very
emergent puzzles in the world for you to do.
Yeah, and like, who doesn't want to walk around solving puzzles?
Yeah, exactly.
Keeps the mind fresh.
Yeah, we gotta stay smart. We gotta stay sharp. Keep that dementia away. It's a very pretty game, very vibrant. What about you, Hamilton?
Honestly, interesting. Like, as you all were kind of mentioning it, I think I would love to walk in the land of Super Mario.
Well, okay, which one? Which one?
Oh goodness.
8-bit, 16-bit, 64-bit.
Paper.
Oh no! Now you're putting me on the spot here. I was like debating between Mario 3 and Mario Odyssey. No, Mario Sunshine. Oh my gosh, there's water everywhere. I love water. That's why I live in New England. That's why I live in Rhode Island, because I'm surrounded by beaches and water. It's my place. It's my comfort zone. But I think Delfino Island, as long as I'm not in jail and having to clean an entire island.
Just try not to get framed for any graffiti, Hamilton.
Exactly. As long as I'm not framed for anything. Because the game itself was not quite my speed, but I loved the aesthetics of the island. So that's probably where I would tour. I'd walk around.
I could go for a vacation over there. That music, the atmosphere.
I know.
Love to walk it.
How about you? Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. Me or Christian? Because he's going to be way more interesting than I will be, probably.
Honestly, I love this question. So whomever would like to go.
Christian, you're the star. How about that? You all three are the star of this discussion. Nobody cares what I have to say.
Well, we're going to get to your choice in a second here, Celeste, because we got to put you on the spot too. I think it's a little bit of a toss-up. My first inclination is Final Fantasy VIII. which
Final Fantasy VIII.
I know.
What an interesting choice.
Yeah, so much like Super Mario Sunshine, not a great game necessarily. I just it was my first Final Fantasy, I have to say, ages ago. I didn't finish it because it's a real kind of bonkers experience that doesn't make a lot of sense unless you've done some reading on it. But I finally did play it again recently, and I had a good time, but it's a real mess. That said, the aesthetic of it, like Art Nouveau, just sets my heart alight. Art Nouveau is just my favorite architectural style, and in the real world, of course, so much of the Art Nouveau that was created was lost in the span of like the first two World Wars. And so in the real world, it's a little hard to find like genuine, like just wild curved Art Nouveau buildings. But in Final Fantasy VIII, there are a dime a dozen. Like every city in that looks like some kind of Art Nouveau, like Tiffany glass masterwork. And like I just enjoy like walking around the towns in that game. The idea of getting to travel around it in real life would be really neat.
Did they... Sorry if I'm interrupting. Did they make a remaster of that?
Well, so this is... we're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but
Okay.
I've got a lot of feelings on the Final Fantasy remasters. Famously, and this is the historian in me again coming out, because I that's what kind of got me writing the Franchise Festival articles to begin with, is kind of going into the history of game series. Square infamously lost the source code for its early 3D Final Fantasy games.
Really?
And so the only reason that we have remasters now of Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9 is due to the PC ports that were created by like an outside contractor studio. But one of the consequences to this is that some of the functionality of the original games is lost. So if you play the original Final Fantasy 8 like ROM, either if, heaven forbid, you're emulating it, or if you're lucky enough to have a PlayStation 3 or a PlayStation Vita, you can play it legitimately. The resolution is low, but you can move your character in 360 degrees, at least in 8 and 9. And if you play the remasters, which are in a higher level of visual fidelity, the characters only move in 4 directions. Maybe 8 directions, but in any case, it just drives me bonkers when I'm trying to control a character in a 3D space and they're only moving in analog directions.
So if I might say, I tend to get lost in video games now, especially since I managed to land a PS5.
Lucky
I've always
you.
loved. Lucky me! It's
very lucky.
Trying to get one right.
You're
One
the
now
envy
is
of many
so...
people right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! I don't want to get on a tangent. But I'll very quickly. I was at the bank, and somehow, some way, because I was scammed, guys.
At the bank, you were
at another
scammed?
site. No, at a site when I was trying to buy another PS5. This is a few months ago.
Yeah.
So I had to go through my bank to kind of resolve the scam. And they're just like, well, what'd you spend $500 on? I was like, well, because of PS5. And then I said, like, well, I got one now, so that's fine. And the person behind the counter was just like, you got a PS5? I was like, I've been wanting to get that for so long. How did you get a hold of it? And I was just like, well, someone literally needed the money right now. They had a PS5, which is behind me, and they were just like, well, if you have $500, like, in hand, I'll give it to you right now. And I was just like, heck yeah. So I went over to their house and I got it, and we just talked for a while, and they're just like, don't ever talk to me again, by the way, like, once you leave this bank. I mean, in a nice way.
Oh,
in a nice way. They're just, yeah. I had to clarify that. They're just like, don't
Get
talk
out
to
of
me
my
until,
bank.
Yeah, don't talk to me until I have a PS5 as well.
This is why it takes Chris 15 hours to record these podcasts. That dynamic of, well, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but let me go off on a tangent.
I will say this is the podcast to go off on a tangent.
Didn't want to. I had a point, and actually I completely forgot what my point was because I went on a tangent.
Oh, you got scammed. You done got scammed.
I did done get scammed because I got it. But what was my point before that? See, I had a point before that, and I forgot it.
Walking
You like
video
exploring?
games
Walking.
And you said you have a PS5 now, so I think the exploration is amped up.
Yes.
Did you just want to brag about your PS5?
That's all it is. He just wants to talk about it and make me grumpy.
Uh-huh.
Come on, don't put me on the spot like this. But Actually, since the Dreamcast days I'm sorry for whomever had a Dreamcast. I had a Dreamcast. And Sonic Adventure. When I saw, like, the updated graphics, I was saying that I do get lost in graphics, Chris. I will sometimes just stand there, and I'll just, like, look around and just be like, wow, this is such a beautiful world, and you look at the sand moving, and you look at the dynamics of the water.
Yeah.
So I do get where you're coming from in terms of just, like, you kind of get lost when you play a video game because you're just like, oh, I really actually love this background, and I just kind of want to just chill and just stand here and not get anything done. But hey, it's about me. It's about me.
Yeah, VR is so nice for that. I don't know if any of you have used VR much, but Moss or Deracine on the PlayStation VR are they make you feel good to kind of wander around in.
See, now I'm jealous, Chris, so thanks for that.
Take that right back at you, Hamilton.
Just gonna mope. But Celeste, I don't think we actually covered you at all.
Oh, wait. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious about this.
Yeah, your turn.
I'm glad I didn't go first because I was thinking about it. My first instinct, because we were talking about fall, was the Akala region in Breath of the Wild. However, I can keep that answer because the next one I feel like is kind of cheating because it is a walking simulator game, but Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is one of the most beautiful video games I have ever played in my entire life, and it affected me in many ways. But
do you mind describing that?
Oh,
Everyone's Gone to Rapture? Is that what it's called?
Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. It is a walking simulator. You never see the person you are walking as, if you're even a person. Who knows? But you're exploring this beautiful English village. It's lush. There's a church. There are these cottages. You see this lake. The sun sets, and you can actually go into some of the homes and see how people lived, and you're not quite sure where everyone vanished. So, hence the name Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. I don't want to spoil too much in case you decide to play it, but when I tell you, I would love to actually walk in a village like that in real life.
Is it on the PS? Is it on the PlayStation?
Mm-hmm. I played it on PS4.
Oh, nice.
Neat.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what that came out on. Yeah, I totally missed that one too, but I love that genre, so I should really check it out.
Because when you said Rapture, I immediately thought of BioShock.
Oh, yeah!
Very different tone.
And I was just like, oh, you want to walk through BioShock?
Well, Christian, based on what I've seen you tweet and the things you're interested in, I think, especially like on a spiritual level, I think it would very much speak to you and make you just bring about these emotions, and you get throughout the game there are these sparkle shapes of the people who are vanished, and they're not in chronological order, so you kind of have to piece things together, which can be a little frustrating, but it's very fascinating to watch the dynamics and the relationships among all the people. Someone might be having an affair. Someone might be trying to reach out into outer space and get contact with aliens. So
cool. Yeah, that sounds very appealing. That reminds me of Return of the Obra Dinn, kind of trying to piece together events that have already happened through observing the experiences of others. That's a really appealing subgenre.
Oh, I'm going to have to play that. Is that on a system or is it PC?
Yeah, no, that's on a lot of stuff. I played it on the Switch, and it's just perfect on there. I assume it's on other I know it's on PC, but sometimes Switch ports can go a few different ways, and that one's just rock solid, top notch.
Outstanding. Thank you all for humoring me with that unexpected question. That's
a great question. Yeah,
it is.
Get our wheels a turning.
Yeah, all you had to do was talk about walking, Hamilton, and now we're all planning our next vacations, even virtually. So this is a question I like to ask people who play video games, just for fun. Is there a moment in video game history that you remember fondly? Maybe when a system came out, a game came out, just a direct in particular, just anything that comes to mind.
I actually have one.
Oh, you want to go first?
I would love to. And I'd love to hear everyone else's opinion, but the game I remember super fondly when I was younger was Sonic Adventure. Again, Sonic fan, grew up as Sonic, but my mother kind of let it slip that she was getting me a Dreamcast because that was like the hit thing, and I just wanted Sonic. And I remember just waiting for it to come out, and then when it came out, that's the game where I pretty much spent most of my time just kind of watching it instead of playing it at first, because it was like the new age graphics, and I mean, it held up. The graphics held up so well. I don't know as much today. They're alright today. But I was just like, I'd like watch the beach levels, I'd watch the city levels. I was so enamored by that game.
That sweet rockin' soundtrack.
Oh my gosh! Well, Sonic music is also a thing. I have an embarrassing amount of Sonic music on my iTunes. Great for when I have my friends over and they're just like, "Oh, what kind of music do you like?" And I'm like, "Sonic the Hedgehog."
Escape from the City coming up hot.
Yeah. I mean, I've sang quite a bit of my Sonic Adventure 2, Escape from the City. So that's a very, very, very fond memory of mine. And I'll just kind of like go back to my halcyon days of kind of just remembering that game and remembering the soundtrack and just kind of chilling out to it. But, I don't know. Spencer, let's go with you. I'm really curious.
Maybe kind of a cliched answer, but the release of Half-Life 2. Prior to that, I mostly played consoles, but I had a group of friends that were really getting into PC gaming, and they picked that up, and it just, the way it looked, the animations, the environmental storytelling, everything about Half-Life 2 was so groundbreaking at the time that it made me kind of scrounge up my change and buy a graphics card to throw in the old pre-built Dell my family had so that I could also get Half-Life 2. And it set the gold standard for the genre for so long, and the gold standard for tech at the time, and it's what got me into PC gaming, and I think it really got a lot of people into PC gaming because it was just such an impactful thing when it came out. And it still holds up. That's a fantastic game. Made Valve what they are today in a lot of ways. Well, I guess Valve is not what they are. What they are today is not what they were back then. So that was a bad.
It made Valve what they were 15 years ago.
They were 15 years ago.
Has it been that long? Oh my goodness. Oh.
Yeah, what was Half-Life 2?
I try not to count the years.
Aught 2 or Aught 4? Something like that.
Aught 4?
Yeah.
That also ages us.
20 Aught 4.
Yeah.
Way back
the older
when.
you get, the more aughts you get.
That's okay. That's okay. What about you, Christian? Is there a certain moment in history, video game history, that sticks out to you?
I'll give two. One is my parents, much like Spencer, my parents are like dedicated game unenthusiasts. And so, they're happy to see me happy and so forth. I love them to death, but that's a particular thing that we don't particularly connect over. Like, we love a lot of the same books and movies and stuff, but not that. However, the first game that I remember playing was Super Mario Brothers, and I distinctly recall, I couldn't have been more than like, it must be one of my earliest memories, weirdly enough. But I remember my dad playing Super Mario Brothers and kind of teaching me how to play it, and me like really egging him on to like jump onto Lakitu and like drop him out of the cloud. And so for some reason, like that really, like, that always stands out in my mind as one of my favorite game memories. I think that, I guess, like Super Mario Brothers and Mario 3 are probably what kind of inspired my excitement for the medium, and just kind of watching my dad play. So that, but also, and I guess this reflects that it's like a lot of life experiences. Like, a lot of the time, what most excites us in our memory is what kind of connected us to the people we love. And I distinctly remember a buddy of mine and I got really into the original Pokemon game when it came out. I think it was the first RPG for both of us. And there was a local store that, for some reason, got a copy of the Japanese Pokemon Gold in. And both of us pooled our money together and managed to score this Japanese copy of Pokemon Gold. and we'd kind of like, we'd trade impressions about it, and it was like still the early days of the internet in some ways, so we were like looking up online, like, what does this mean, and like, what do these characters mean, and like, where are you supposed to go? Like, none of this makes any sense, but we were so excited to see all of like the new monsters and like the new world. And that winter, I guess it must have been 1999, 1998, something like that. It's just kind of like burned into my mind, like kind of exploring this very mysterious world with my friend kind of remotely.
Oh, you all have such great examples of that. I love it. I don't remember if it was the PlayStation 2 or the PlayStation 3. I want to say it was the PlayStation 2. I think it was such a big deal when that system was coming out. I distinctly remember reporters going to places like Toys R Us and interviewing people waiting in lines. Is that this? Do you all remember that? Is that the
That
correct
sounds
system?
right. That was a huge launch, if memory serves. Yeah,
PlayStation
because they
2?
marked the price down really low on it, if memory serves, to kind of undermine. Am I thinking of the original PlayStation? Yeah, I think I am. Anyway, it was a DVD player too, so everybody was excited to get one. So yeah, it must have been a huge launch. I'll bet you're right. I think that was the PlayStation 2.
I think it's the PlayStation 2, because the original PlayStation, like, I remember they, I think you had to trade in one video game system in like 5 games, and you either got the Sega Saturn or the PlayStation. That was like a huge deal. Mm-hmm. And me, genius move that it was, I got the Sega Saturn. Should have gotten the PlayStation.
Slam dunk.
Hey, I mean, I also got, what was that game? Panzer Dragoon. So
okay. Well, yeah. If you had to get one game for the Sega Saturn, like...
One game. Yeah. That's all it was. But I think it was the PlayStation 2, maybe, because that was huge. And they're also trying to sell the Metal Gear Solid 2. That was like their big thing, and they're just like, dude, but look at these graphics.
That game still looks great. Like,
playing.
What were they doing with that? That, like...
I know.
Man, that Kojima... That guy's got a lot of baggage, but the visual style of those, like, it's so hard to create something that's kind of like realistically rendered, so to speak, from the early 2000s and have it still look good. Right. Like 20 years later, like cell shading still looks good, but realistic stuff, like, whew, their visual design, they were right to trumpet that.
It was crazy cool. I remember they were like showing like, this is how awesome the system is. Look at the rain particles.
Yeah, the
like,
rain.
Look at it. Yes. So I think that was it.
It's interesting to me that that's what sticks out in my mind, because until my boyfriend and I got together, I never had a PlayStation in my house. My dad plays video games as well, and so do my younger sisters. So we always had Nintendo systems. It was something for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think, I guess I was about 12 or 13 when it came out, and I think it made me feel excited because even large news programs were recognizing the impact of video games. People were excited. It just, anytime people are excited about something, even if I'm not going to participate, I'm excited for them.
Yeah. Yeah, positivity is a good thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, we all know life has its moments of not such positive times, so anything that makes people happy and it's not hurting someone,
let
them have it. Let them have it.
Darn right.
Yeah. So you had kind of answered this question a little earlier on, but what inspired you to start Franchise Festival? What's the basis of the name? Anything you'd like to share about, or like what was it like getting started with a podcast?
Yeah, good question. I'll kick this off since the just speaking to the name, like it kind of started as an entirely different thing. The website that I write for is The Avocado, which is kind of an unofficial spin-off of another website. And like, I don't want to get anybody in trouble or anything, so I guess I won't. I don't know if I'm like supposed to say what it's a spin-off of. I don't know. Anybody who's on there knows. But the point is that The Avocado got started as kind of a community-driven, indie pop culture site maybe 5 years ago or so. And 3 years ago, in early 2018, I got the idea to start writing these game history articles. And I hadn't really been exposed to, like, Retronauts or, like Hardcore Gaming 101 or any of those other, like, really good game history resources at the time. So I was like, oh, this is novel. And in retrospect, it's not really that novel. But I tried to kind of... you try to find your niche, right? And so my niche was charting the development of a particular series or intellectual property from its earliest point to its most recent point, game by game. So some of these articles are like unreasonably long. I think the Resident Evil one was like 35 pages. They're really like long form, But it's a passion of mine, and so I don't know where that name came from. I used to walk to a coffee shop every day at my old office, and you have a lot of time to think when you're walking to the coffee shop, and that's just the name that popped into my head one day when I was like, I should start a new article series on this website. So, gosh, I wish there was like a better explanation for it than that, but alliteration's always good, right? Everybody likes alliteration. Oh, I also did a Google search for it and couldn't find anybody else with the same name, so that's a good thing.
That is smart.
But yeah, after that, I did that for maybe 2 years, and then in must have been mid-2019, Spencer and I got to talking about starting a podcast. We were particularly inspired. Spencer had turned me on to a podcast called Watch Out for Fireballs, which I heartily recommend to anybody. It's, I guess you'd call it like a games club podcast, where they, they go in depth with a particular game for like, I don't know, 2 hours or so. It's two extremely charismatic fellows who cover it. And so Spencer and I were both fans of this, and so we got to thinking, well, we could do this too, right? And so we did. I immediately, like I said, I brought Hamilton on. I said, hey, you wanna do this too? And so we decided on Legend of Zelda as our first series to cover. The conceit of the show is based on the articles, but in a much longer span. So whereas like one article will cover an entire game series, one season of our show will cover an entire game series. So Legend of Zelda took a good 1.5 years to cover, publishing one episode a month. And I think Resident Evil will take about the same. We're really excited to do a shorter series for season 3.
So are you all playing each game as you discuss the series?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep, we aim to play through each game in its entirety in between recordings.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier. Wow. It's funny. We really love to cover like Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy or like one of those big RPG heavy hitters. But for obvious reasons, the format doesn't really favor that. Like, can you imagine trying to play through like a Final Fantasy game every month? A Kingdom Hearts game every month. That's a lot, but yeah.
All of them back to back, no less.
Yeah, it's rough. And so, you got to try to favor series that have a lot of variety between entries to keep the actual shows interesting, and also are short enough that you can do it without burning yourself out. We got a little burned out on Zelda about 2/3 of the way through the season. And I think that tracks with like when the wider public got a little bit burned out on Zelda, culturally speaking. And then, of course, we got more back into it with, like, the last few titles that they've made in the last decade or so. But Resident Evil is a little bit easier because the games themselves are shorter.
Oh, yes, significantly. So, which Resident Evil is each of you's favorite? Like, which one would you say is your favorite one out of the entire series? Or if you've played all of them. I don't know if you all have played all of them.
The funny thing is, I'll bet we all have the same answer, but I wanna hear Hamilton's first.
Oh, that's too funny.
No, putting me on the spot. What is my favorite? My favorite is probably Resident Evil 2. But I think that's
Which one?
I actually have not played the remake, so I'm gonna have to go with Resident Evil 2, the original, for right now. I want to play the remake, obviously, but I kind of want it to be a fresh experience for the podcast. So I'm holding myself back. But in terms of gameplay, I truly love Resident Evil 2. But I was also telling Chris that I tend to troll the Resident Evil wiki, because I don't know if that's going to be a question. What got you into Resident Evil in the first place?
I can ask you whatever you'd like to be asked.
No, I was just like, I don't want to ruin questions that we might be asked later. So I was like,
Go for it.
Yeah, what got you into Resident Evil, Hamilton?
Whatever you... Yeah. We'll ask.
What brought me into
Christian will just ask. Yeah, go for it.
thanks, boss. But the freaking designs, I loved the monster designs so much. That's what got me inspired to go on the wiki and like even see spoilers. I hate spoilers generally. I am not a fan of it. I want to live video game experiences as I'm playing it. And people love their spoilers. They're just like, even some of my friends, you know, God bless them, but they're just like, dude, I heard this character's coming out. I was like, no, stop. Like, I don't want to know who's coming out. Like, I want to, like, find this out as I play it. Resident Evil, I couldn't care less. It's not because I dislike it. It's like, no, I want to know what the designs are. Like, show me all these latest creatures and boss fights and all this kind of stuff. And even though, like, some of them are more terrifying, some of them are less terrifying, like, I can't get enough of seeing what they're going to do with these designs.
Sometimes they're
next.
just big blobs.
And sometimes they're just big blobs.
William Birkin.
William Birkin, you know, hint, hint. But it's also interesting because even if they're big blobs, they also have a history. Because I also like the, and this is not every game, but I like that they kind of go back and they create a reason for these creatures' existence and, you know, the development phases. Which, again, is not every game, but for some reason this game I'm just like, yes, give me this lore. Tell me the background to these games. I freak.
Yeah, Hamilton's our lore guy. For one reason, like, I bounce off of, like, story and lore really badly. It hasn't always been that way, but that's just how it's been recently. And so, like, half the time we're recording these episodes, and Hamilton will tell us about, like, oh, this is where this creature comes from. And I'm like, good gracious, how did I miss that? But, like... He's just, you know, he's got a real, like mind for this sort of thing. Yeah. I
like lore. I like story. That's, embarrassingly, I don't read as much as Chris does now, which is a shame, because reading is awesome. But I do love lore. I love learning about worlds. I love world building. Not everyone's favorite thing, but that's kind of my thing. I want to know more about why I'm in a certain place. But hey, enough about me. Who else would like to go?
I think Chris and I probably have the same answer, but Resident Evil 4. It's kind of a tricky thing to answer because the design of the Resident Evil games has changed so much across the series that to just say one is objectively better than all the others is maybe a little disingenuous, because I think Resident Evil 7, for example, does... you know, the horror aspect better than 4, and the 1 remake kind of adheres to the classic Resident Evil concepts and executes those better than 4. But 4 overall is the one that I think I have the most fun playing and have played start to finish the most times. So, and it was also the first one I ever really played. From the Sega, I went to the N64 to the GameCube, so I kind of bypassed the PS1 and PS2, which is the easiest place to find 1 through Code Veronica. So I played 4, and then went from 4 to the 1 remake, and then from that point forward, I was kind of hooked, because those are 2 of the best entries in the whole franchise right there at the start. So,
do you mind if I say something now that I have witnesses watching?
Sure.
I have never played... I was about to say Final Fantasy 4 through. I haven't played Resident Evil 4 all the way through.
Well, that's why it's not his favorite. It all makes sense now.
So it was a bombshell to me, Hamilton, that Resident Evil 4 was not your favorite. Or that Resident Evil...
I figured that 4 was going to be it.
You love Resident Evil 1
Yeah,
remake.
I
thought that maybe that one would be your favorite, too.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Resident Evil 1 remake is so good. But that's just because of Lisa Trevor, and that literally gave me nightmares when I was a kid. Literally gave me nightmares. But no, Resident Evil 4 is like the dream of pretty much all of my friends who ever love Resident Evil. And I've heard such great things, but for whatever reason, like, I just never got through to it. Or I never finished it through. And now that we're doing, a podcast on it, I can't get through it now because I'm just like, no, I have to wait, and I have to, like... The only thing that I remember from Resident Evil 4 is the regenerators, and it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, they're pretty terrifying.
Just that noise that they make and the wheezing and them stuff, and I'm just like, no.
They are the ones where you have to use the infrared
Yep,
scope?
precisely.
Yep.
Okay. It's been a little while since I've played. I think... Gosh, I feel like we could talk about just Resident Evil on this episode.
You could do a whole podcast on Resident Evil.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody is.
Goodness, like,
A whole
on.
season.
Yeah, there's one called Raccoon City Radio.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the two fellas... Oh my gosh, I'm having a moment where I'm forgetting their names.
There's so many names to
Forgive me,
remember.
But they... And they talked about their experiences playing Resident Evil 2 Remake and then Resident Evil 3 Remake. But I don't... What I would like is... I love lore like Hamilton. I would love if there's a Resident Evil podcast. And I'm sure there is. I think there is the Resident Evil podcast.
Residents of Evil, I know. Residents
around.
of Evil does some good shows too.
Maybe
Yeah, he does a lot of
that's it.
interviews with like developers and voice actors and stuff from the games.
That's it. And so 4 is your favorite too, Christian.
Yes, but for that's one of those games like you play annually. We've talked about this on the show, but there are just like certain games that are just like functionally perfect. And like in my mind, you've got like Mario World, Super Metroid, Resident Evil 4,
Super Metroid,
and like
so
Breath
good.
of the Wild. You know, like some games are just functionally perfect to me.
Metroid Prime.
We'll agree to disagree, Hamilton. Yeah, that's a good game, but it's got that GameCube problem, right? Like all the first party Nintendo games in that era had to have like the final 25% was backtracking, and it just burns me up. Yeah, but
Fair.
I mean nothing's perfect, right? And like if you can get like a 99%, like well, that's pretty much perfect. Anyway, point is, for the sake of conversation, I'll skip Resident Evil 4 and I'll say Resident Evil 2 Remake is probably my second favorite Resident Evil game. I think it's the most successful marriage that Capcom has produced between like the traditional Resident Evil and the newer Resident Evil. Like it's got kind of the overall style of 4, the more action-oriented, over-the-shoulder camera, but it has the more traditional like Romero-esque zombies. It's set in that like gritty urban environment. It's got maybe a little bit more of like the kind of goofy corporate B-movie intrigue of early Resident Evil, and so I must have played that game 10 to 15 times when it came out. Now, part of that's because you can crank that game out in like 2 hours. Like it's a very short game, but I got to speed running it, and I got like A's on all of the campaigns and everything. I really like a short game. Like I like something. I love the Mega Man games for that reason. Capcom's really good at that, but like where you can just kind of rinse and repeat, go back in and get better at it. It's really nice to me. I like simple mechanics and a short runtime.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to continue listening to the Resident Evil series that you have going on Franchise Festival. I listened to it that episode about a week ago, and it's so thorough, which I really appreciate. So you talked about Zelda, you've talked about Resident Evil. What other topics have you covered in the podcast, or series, I should say?
That's all so far. Our first season started in January 2020, and so that was Zelda. Our second season started, you've just heard the first episode. The second episode, truth be told, the second episode is about to come out at the time of recording. I'm not sure when this recording session will go live, but I'm sure folks will have access to our season 2 episode 2 by then. So we've only covered Resident Evil and Zelda so far, but like what other series were we thinking about covering, folks?
Oh no, they're on the spot.
Well, we already brought up Metroid. That's been one that we've been talking about quite a bit. I'm an advocate for Monster Hunter because I love that game and I want an excuse to just play all of them. I don't know how compelling of content that would make.
Yeah, it strikes me as similar to
There's
like a
not
Mega
much-
Man season, right?
Yeah.
How do you cover the iteration?
yeah.
But, what a mechanically engaging.
And yet I covered the Mega
franchise,
Man
right?
thing because I was just like, yeah, that'd be so fun.
Yeah, there's not much in the way of story in those games, so talking about the differences from one to the next would just be like real technical level tweaks as to all the different weapons.
Which is
combos
appropriate
and
for
things.
Spencer.
I don't
Spencer
think
is
it
our
is.
technical guy. Spencer is our gameplay and mechanics guy. He's got a real aptitude for describing really minute mechanical detail, which really makes for compelling listening.
Like in this game, you can dash. In this game, you can duck.
The dodge roll has 3 extra invincibility frames. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's value.
Oh
to
yeah,
that.
it's great.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
One of the things that we've aimed for with the show is to make it compelling to folks who haven't played the game that we're covering. Because we got some feedback really early on that I really appreciated that said that it was somebody who hadn't played any of the Zelda games, and they said they were really engaging with Season 1 because they weren't getting the impression of inside baseball. The way that we were describing things made sense to them as a person who hadn't played the series. And I bounce a lot of this off of my wife as well, because she has not played any Zelda, and she hasn't played any Resident Evil. She's a games enthusiast as well, but those 2 particular series aren't her forte. And so I get a lot of good feedback from her on does this make sense, or is this incoherent to somebody who hasn't actually played the game?
That's a great it's if you want someone who's never played the game to want to jump into it, you can't really speak a different language per se. It's almost not that you're advertising the game, but what would intrigue them? Because I haven't played any Final Fantasy games, so whenever people start talking about Final Fantasy, I feel very lost. So, gosh, I almost would want you to cover Final Fantasy because you all do such a good job.
It would be really
Zelda
fun.
and
Yeah,
Resident
don't count it
Evil.
out. Someday
It would be really fun.
We'll just do 3 years.
But the story section would also be 4
exactly.
hours long.
When we become popular enough that we can quit our day jobs and just spend all day playing Final Fantasy, then we can.
There you
cover
go.
Final
Exactly.
Fantasy.
That'll be the day.
Exactly.
That's the dream, right? To be able to do what you love all day instead of the humdrum. But I think in a way that almost gives you a greater
The 9 to
appreciation
5.
for your hobbies. You have something precious to hold on to. But do you have any other projects or pursuits that you'd like to discuss as related to Franchise Festival? Christian, you mentioned the avocado. Are there any other projects you all would like to plug?
I'll plug his articles. I've read his articles on the avocado, and I'm just like, dang, this is so in depth. Especially his Sonic one, because he actually sent that one to me, and I was just like, thank you for being kind to my sometimes terrible series.
Yeah, that was an interesting endeavor, because I used to publish these articles weekly, and my wife finally convinced me to stop doing that, because it was burning me out, writing these full histories and publishing them every week, and it's just too much. So now it's bi-weekly, and I take occasional breaks, but Sonic was kind of an interesting one because there was just so much there that I think I split it up into 3 articles or 4 articles just to cover the entire breadth of the series and its spin-offs. But yeah, I knew Hamilton would be particularly excited about that, so I did send him that one.
I enjoyed that. And again, he was kind, because some of those games are just what is this garbage?
Oh, it's an interesting series. But if anybody would like to check those articles out, we do have, I link the entire article archive at franchisefestivalpodcast.com. But you can also go to the avocado. That's the-avocado.org. Let me just double check. Is that a .com or a .org? Let's get a fact check on this. It's .org. I got it right. the-avocado.org. And every other Friday, there's a Franchise Festival article going up there on a new game series. Funny enough, I just wrote one on Monster Hunter, so I'll probably send that one to Spencer. I'll also plug, just because I've been doing a lot of writing, I've been interviewing indie game developers over the last year. The first... It's the first Friday of every month I publish an interview with an indie game developer. So far we've covered like Blue Fire, Paradise Killer, Crosscode, Omno, just all kinds of great indie games. I usually try to cover one that's like come out recently or had a big update recently. And that's also at the Avocado. If you go over there, you can find indie game developer interviews that I do each month.
How exciting! I love it. Thank you for sharing those. And I do notice that you have a Patreon, so that's where listeners can support you, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, like Spencer and Hamilton say. That's really neat. I've never done a Patreon before.
That is cool.
But all the other podcasts that I follow do Patreons, so I figured, why not? We certainly put in the work. And so, for what are our tiers? It's like, I think for $1 a month, you get a shout out on the show and in the articles. For $3 a month, you get access to a bonus episode every month. On the general feed, it's one episode per month. We're covering the core series entries of Resident Evil. But if you subscribe for $3 or more, you get access to bonus episodes that cover like general topics or spin-offs. So actually, right after we get done this session, we are recording an episode on Resident Evil Gaiden, which will be going live for our patrons on, I want to say, August 15th.
Very cool. I saw you teasing that about Resident Evil Gaiden. I think they got a choice.
Yes, and I'm happy you mentioned that. The final tier, I had to come up with names for these, which I think is funny on Patreon. So I did like Backer, Super Backer, and Diamond Backer. I don't know, Platinum Backer, I don't know. But for the $5 level, people get to vote on episode topics for bonus episodes. So for this one, we had a poll where it was either Resident Evil Survivor or Resident Evil Gaiden. Both interesting spin-offs to the Resident Evil series, and both kind of like flawed in some really interesting ways. But our patrons picked Resident Evil Gaiden. So if viewers here would also like to choose future episodes, they can subscribe at that $5 level.
Very cool. I'm very excited for everything you three are doing. Is there anything else, any other kind of plans? I know you said that you're not sure of the next series yet, but are there any other plans or anything else you'd like to share with listeners?
We have a Twitch stream that's dead at the moment. We ran into some logistical issues with that, but I am hoping to maybe bring that back at some point in the near future. Specifically, in early 2022, when Monster Hunter Rise releases for PC, I'd like to start the stream back up and play a lot of that for folks.
Yeah, if folks keep their eye on our Twitter page, they can find out about when we're streaming. I don't personally tend to stream, but our former guest host Jasmine streamed quite a bit in Season 1. And Spencer and Hamilton streamed quite a bit as well. The games that we play on there don't tend to be related to the season that we're covering. It's more just whatever we're excited to play. So, even if you aren't interested in the season topic, you might be interested in the streaming. But yeah, like Spencer said, it's currently inactive. But keep an eye on the Twitter feed, and maybe we'll open that back up at some point.
Yep, that's franchise_festival on Twitch. And before we stream, I'll update the schedule on the page. So if you follow or subscribe to it on there, you should get updates when I post a schedule once that project is a little more underway.
Awesome. And where can people find you on the internet?
All kinds of places. We've got a our main thing is franchisefestivalpodcast.com. And that's where listeners can they can stream episodes on there. They can check out our show notes. I sometimes get a little bit behind on show notes, but usually not too far behind. And so those include things like links to our sources, links to like the soundtracks of the games, sometimes some like visual content as well. You can find the article archive on there to go through and check out older Franchise Festival articles that have been published. We're also on Twitter. You can find us on Twitter using the handle @franchise_fest, or follow me specifically using the handle @SinginBrakeman. That's SinginBrakeman. That's a little much. You know, I've tried to like change that handle from time to time, but everything that I try to change it to is already taken. So I'm stuck with it.
Of course.
Yeah, isn't that the way?
Just goes right back to that Singing
and
Break,
of course,
man.
on podcast apps, you can subscribe to the show at Franchise Festival. Just plug that in. I think I have us on all of the major podcast apps. I want to say Spotify, iTunes, Pocket Casts, Podcast Addict. You know, if it's a podcast app, we're probably on it. So just search Franchise Festival. New episodes on the first of the month, every month.
Very cool. Spencer Hamilton, do you have any social media accounts that you'd like to share where you're active or engage with fans?
So, me and a buddy have started a Twitch streaming thing called Dork Dynasty. I know, isn't that just the best? Just the
Dork
best.
Dynasty.
So we stream some FPS games, but we also just kind of stream whatever we want. Right now, we're probably going to start off with a Destiny 2, and just kind of like go from there. It's a new Twitch streaming thing, so we're kind of still through the planning phase, but that's kind of that's kind of like our thing as to what we're doing now and keeping in touch with people. So hey, I think it's, I'll have to ask him because he kind of manages the page. I think it's like Dork Space Dynasty at twitch.com. But either case, you'll find us pretty easily if you search Twitch. But I definitely recommend it because I'm on it. Kidding. But that's been a lot of fun. So
I'm so glad.
I'm an old curmudgeon, so I don't have an Instagram or a Twitter or anything like that. I do have a personal Twitch page. It's Spencer_Sigma. That's also a little bit inactive because of my work schedule. But when I am active on there, I stream more competitive stuff like Dota 2. Every once in a while, Rainbow Six Siege, but I haven't been playing that recently. I used to stream a lot of Magic the Gathering, but I'm going to pivot into chess, I think. Ever since the pandemic hit, I've been really getting into chess. And once I'm slightly less terrible at it, I'm going to start streaming that.
Arguably the greatest game ever made.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a classic.
It's been around for a while.
Just a little bit. A few years.
Well, thank you three so much for making time for this interview. I really enjoy your work. I enjoy the community, and I like what I see on Twitter. It's just so fun, and I really enjoy how thorough the episodes are. You guys put in a lot of work, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So please know that.
Yeah, thank you, and likewise, same to you. I really like what you're doing for Boss Rush Games. Really great like network that's being built over there. Just so much great content, you know.
Oh, thank you so much. And as you know, it's not easy whenever you also work and have outside things
exactly
that sometimes demand your attention. But we try.
It's all about like bringing a smile to somebody's face, right?
We could all use more smiles, and you have to have fun with it. Mm-hmm. If you're not having fun, then what's the point?
Exactly.
I always say.
Exactly.
Well, everyone, you can find Boss Rush at Boss Rush Network on Twitter and bossrush.net. And you can find me at Fairy Crypt on Twitter. But until next time, everybody, we'll see you later. Bye, guys.
Thanks.